This is the biggest steak I ever cooked. This is a steak that is known as the Tom and Jerry steak. And it's humongous.
Big thanks to KJ Joe for sponsoring this episode.
It is so big. I had it special cut. This thing weighs at least 50 pounds. Look at it. It's a monster. Recently I had the opportunity to slaughter one of my neighbor's bulls, a Black Angus bull, and I always wanted to make this steak. Normally, of course, you can ask your butcher for this steak, but it's going to be a challenge because he has to special order. And especially in the Netherlands where we live, the butcher likes to take out all these different cuts and use them for their specific purpose. And now we just went in and cut straight through all of those steaks to make this one steak. But this is not just any ordinary Black Angus beef. I had it specially dry aged for 14 days. That's going to make it more flavorful and tender. You can see the dry aging on the outside of this steak. Looks absolutely beautiful. And it's just a light pellicle, so I'm going to keep the pellicle because it's also going to provide me with some strength to hold that steak together. Of course, I'm going to treat it as a steak, which means I'm going to use the reversed sear method. That means I'm going to smoke it first and then sear it off. Will that work? Well, we're about to find out. For me, this is a once in a lifetime steak. So it's not something that I regularly request from my butcher, but it's just something that I wanted to do so bad. Now, as you can see, we got a little bit of fat on the outside. I want to keep that, of course. I got a little bit of pellicle on the other side, but the meat side I'm definitely going to season with the PITMASTERX beef seasoning. I'm going to put on a healthy dose of seasoning, and because it's such a thick piece of meat, it's going to need plenty of seasoning. With a little bit of mustard as a binder, we're building up a beautiful crust. Don't worry too much about over seasoning the meat. It is way too much beef for that. 1, 2, up. For this cook, I'm going to be using my biggest smoker and the smoker that I think can handle this steak the best. And that is the new Big Joe, the fully connected one. First, I'm going to remove the grill grates and the heat deflectors, load it up with a little bit of charcoal, and then hit the ignition button. And because it's such a big piece of meat, I'm going to put in a dripping tray, so I'm going to capture at least some of the juices and fat that's going to render down out of this steak. And with the grill grates in place, it's now time to put that steak on. Whoa! Wow! This is most definitely a Big Joe steak. How big is that? That is ridiculously big. Close the lid. Luckily it fits. And switch on the barbecue. I'm going to set the temperature to smoking temperatures and dial in the temperatures. 280 degrees, 285 degrees Fahrenheit. There we go. And of course, I'm going to measure the temperature inside the beef. So I'm just going to stick in a thermometer that's connected to the new Big Joe Konnected Joe right there. And now all I need to do is wait for the barbecue to get up to temperature and give it some time. I just checked the charts and the temperature is at 17 degrees Celsius now in the core of our beautiful Tom and Jerry steak. It's going real well, but we've been cooking already for 2 hours. And I think it's time we flip the steak. Even if it's just to look at what it looks like at the bottom, because what I expect is that the majority of the heat coming from the bottom is cooking the bottom faster than the top, so I'm gonna flip it around and then do the same for the other side. Wow! You can see an immense amount of moisture and heat coming from the bottom. Top is getting warm too. Gonna get the thermometer out. Now I'm going to try and flip this thing. I'm definitely going to need something solid to scoop that with, because that's not going to flip by itself. All right. Oh, yeah. Look at that. It's a good thing we have that dripping tray underneath. That's a lot of moisture. Wow. Don't think you'll be doing this on any type of grill. You're definitely going to need a heavy-duty barbecue to do this work. This is what might have been one of the tougher cooks for a steak. Because of the sheer size and volume that it takes up on the grill, a lot of heat must go around, and therefore it is just not spreading the heat out as evenly as normal. I had to flip the steak, I had to rotate the steak, and still I wasn't getting perfect temperatures spread out throughout the steak. But the lowest temperature is now at the point where I feel that it's safe to take the steak off and say that it's cooked enough, and I'm aiming for somewhat of a medium rare, but we'll see if I did a good job. Let's get it out. And that is just a thing of beauty. Of course I got my special gloves on, because otherwise this is going to be a nightmare. There we go. Oh. Judging by the look of it, we rendered down most of the fat. It became crispy. It actually looks like a real Tom and Jerry steak. Let's take another look at this from the bottom. Wow. Oh, let me lift that up. Poor. Still a giant steak. And with a 25 kilogram or 50 pound steak, it means that this is enough for 100 people. The first thing that I'm going to do now is let it rest. And normally with a steak I would let it rest for 5 minutes, maybe 10. But now I'm more thinking of half an hour or so, just to make sure that everything relaxes and the heat inside the core gets an opportunity to cool down a little bit, spread out evenly. So we'll definitely have to do some waiting. Normally when I rest, I raise up the temperature in the barbecue so I'm ready to start searing off that steak. This steak has built up so much crust in that 4 hours of smoking that I wouldn't dare to take it any further. We got enough crust, it's already got a little bit of char on it. If I take it further, I'm just scared that I'm going to burn it, and I like the way it looks. So this time, I'm not doing the full reverse method, I'm just skipping that. I'm just gonna do the rest, and then well, we'll see what happens then. Cleaning up a little bit, of course with some moisture, so cleaning up is a little bit in order. That's okay, that's okay. That's so cool. This is the first time, my first Tom and Jerry steak, and the first steak with the weight of 25 kilograms. I feel that this is in order. So without further ado, let's slice into this steak and see if I can get a beautiful slice out of this. It is so huge, insane. I see it's a little on the overcooked side. Of course that's the side, so when you go more towards the core, the center, then you're going to have lower temperatures. But look at that. That is still one freaky juicy steak. Taste test time. That is good. That is actually way better than I expected. I'm surprised at how good this steak turned out. I expected the whole thing to be super tough and not very interesting as a cut. And that's also the reason why I postponed it for so long. Because it's all working muscle and I expect it to be tough, and like I saw so many reasons not to take this cut out of a bull, because you have these beautiful cuts that you can still use in another way, but I just had to do it. It's kind of like a bucket list thing for me, and I must say it doesn't disappoint. Better than I expected. The Tom and Jerry steak, guys. Let me know what you think of it. Is it a waste? Would you try this piece of meat, or would you just skip it and move on to something better? Cheers. See you guys in the next one.